Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, English Listening Practice podcast, topic name is 30 plus C1 level vocabulary on art.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. Today's deep dive is, well, it's a mission. We want to equip you with the kind of specialized language you need to go from just, liking a piece of art to really talking about it with confidence. High-level critique, historical analysis, that sort of thing.
Exactly. We're not just listing words here.
No, definitely not a basic review. We're looking at a curated stack of C1 level terms. This is the language critics, curators, even collectors use.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is that hitting that C1 level in English means getting beyond just describing what you see. It's about understanding the why.
The nuance.
Right, the essence maybe. Why does this piece cost so much? Why use oil instead of watercolor? Why did, say, Impressionism pop up when it did?
Yeah.
We've pulled together these concepts aiming to give you those aha moments, the kind you need for, advanced discussions, essays, maybe even exams, turning appreciation into actual expertise. Right. And to make sure we cover all this ground properly, because it is quite expansive, we've grouped these 30 plus terms thematically.
Makes sense.
We'll kick off with the art market think, high stakes, commerce, value, integrity. Then we'll get into the physical stuff, materials, techniques, how art is actually made.
The act of creation itself.
Precisely. That leads us nicely into section 3. The language for describing aesthetics, for formal critique, crucial stuff. And finally, we'll tie it all together with history, the major movements that shaped art over the century.
A good roadmap.
So let's start where the stakes feel highest. The money, the market. Okay, when we talk value in art, especially, big auction houses, everything hinges on one basic question, doesn't it? Is it real?
Absolutely. Which brings us straight to our first key term, authentic.
Authentic, meaning genuine, original.
Bona fide. It's the bedrock of value. If a piece isn't authentic, forget about serious financial worth, no matter how nice it looks.
And figuring that out isn't simple.
No way. It's complex. Museum experts, for instance, they don't just glance at a signature. They're doing forensic analysis, looking at pigments, the canvas, the wood grain, and critically, provenance.
Provenance. That's a great C1 term. For our listeners, it basically means the documented ownership history, right? Why is that paper trail so vital for proving authenticity?
Because that chain of custody is everything. If you can trace a sculpture, say, directly back to the artist's studio through documented sales collections, that unbroken line, that provenance, verifies its origin and massively boosts its value.
And the reverse is true, too.
Definitely. Even a piece that looks spot on might be deemed suspect, maybe even worthless in the high-end market if its provenance is shaky or has gaps. Collectors hunting for those really rare ancient artifacts, they're essentially seeking guaranteed authenticity backed by a rock-solid ownership history.
Okay, so that's authentic. What about the other side of that coin, the reproduction? Looks like the original maybe, but fails that core test.
Right. A reproduction is a copy, a duplicate, a replica. Now, the market treats these very differently depending on the context.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you've got mass market stuff. Think museum gift shops selling posters or good quality prints. That makes famous art accessible, which is great.
Democratizes it a bit.
Exactly.
Right.
But the quality of reproductions today can be so high, it creates a real danger zone. Sophisticated forgeries.
The idea that a skilled forger could make something good enough to fool experts, even for a while, that's pretty scary for collectors.
It is. It keeps verification teams on their toes, constantly refining their methods. But there's also a positive side of reproduction we shouldn't forget, especially in conservation.
Interesting. How does that work?
Digital reproduction, for instance. It plays a vital role. You can create a super high-resolution archival copy of a fragile, original, maybe an old oil painting that's starting to degrade.
So the original can be safely stored.
Precisely. While the public gets to see and study the excellent digital copy. So you get access and preservation. The monetary value of the reproduction is low, sure, but its intellectual or conservation value, that can be immense.
Okay, so authenticity and provenance set this incredibly high bar. Let's shift focus slightly to the skill involved, starting with a word that can be tricky, amateur.
Yeah, this one's nuanced, like you say, C1 level for sure. We often use amateur dismissively in everyday life.
Right, like that looks a bit amateurish.
Exactly. But in art theory, it simply means non-professional, novice level, maybe the dilettante. Someone who perhaps lacks the polished precision you'd expect from a full-time paid professional. The key is realizing skill isn't the only measure of artistic merit.
I think about raw charm sometimes. An amateur sketch might lack perfect shading, sure, but it could capture an energy, a spontaneity.
That's a great way to put it, that essence of a moment. Highly polished work can sometimes lose that. Think about Van Gogh's early stuff.
Before the famous vibrant colors.
Right. His early drawings, maybe lacking that confident line or bold color, might have been seen as amateurish by the academic painters of his day. But the potential was there.
So the journey matters.
The journey from amateur to master often involves refining technique, yes. But importantly, many modern galleries intentionally include amateur work in shows. Open submissions, for example.
Why do they do that?
To bring in diversity. To contrast that raw passion, maybe, with highly honed professional technique. It broadens the conversation about what we value in art.
Okay, makes sense. Now let's talk about the money engine. The structures that support artists, whether amateur or master. We need to define auction house.
Right. The auction house, it's the main bidding venue, the high-stakes sales gallery. Think Sotheby's Christie's. They're the global stage for the art market, especially for record-breaking modern and contemporary art sales.
But they do more than just bang the gavel, right?
Oh, much more. A huge part of their role is the pre-sale work. Verifying authenticity again, checking provenance, building detailed catalogs. It's all about building trust with those high net worth buyers.
They're gatekeepers, in a way, ensuring that when a collector spends millions, they're getting what they think they're getting.
Absolutely, they have to be. The whole process relies on that trust. But money aside, art history shows us that art needs support to flourish. Which brings us to the patron.
Right. A patron isn't just a buyer. They're more like a sponsor, a benefactor. Someone who supports the arts financially.
Yes. And historically, patronage was the dominant model. Think Florence, the Renaissance.
Medici family.
A classic example. Historical patrons like the Medici didn't just buy finished art. They actively commissioned masterpieces.
Yeah.
They funded artists, workshops.
So they shaped the art being made.
Profoundly. And it wasn't just about personal taste. For someone like the Medici, patronage was also a tool. It demonstrated wealth, culture, even political power. Their legacies intertwined with the art they funded.
That link between money, power, and art is fascinating. Does that still exist today?
The structure's different now, less centralized maybe, but the vital role of the patron, absolutely. Modern patrons can be individuals, yes, but also corporations, foundations, governments providing grants.
Supporting emerging artists.
Crucially, providing stipends, funding residencies. That support helps artists bridge that gap, maybe from amateur or semi-professional to a sustainable career. It's the financial lifeblood that keeps the whole arts ecosystem healthy and innovative.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Away from the market, more towards the studio. The tangible stuff, the materials, the processes artists actually use. Let's start with sculpture, three-dimensional art, some great C1 technical terms here.
Definitely. With sculpture, the material is just so fundamental. Two key ones to know are bronze and ceramic.
Bronze, that's the metal, right?
Usually an alloy, copper and tin mostly.
Yeah.
It's famous for its strength, its durability. Artists love it for outdoor pieces, public monuments, things that need to last.
You see bronze statues everywhere, commemorating historical figures or events. They really hold up to the elements.
They do. And that durability means museums can display these massive bronze works, sometimes spanning centuries, ancient to modern. It's reliable stuff. Technique-wise, casting is key, often using the lost wax method that's Sire Purdue, if you want the fancy term.
Lost wax.
Yeah, it's an ancient, pretty intricate casting process. It lets sculptors capture incredible detail from their original model, usually clay or wax, into the final durable bronze. It takes immense skill.
Okay. And contrasting with heavy, durable bronze, you mentioned ceramic.
Right. Ceramic refers to pottery, earthenware.
Yeah.
Basically, things made from clay that's been fired at very high temperatures.
Baked in a kiln.
Exactly. The creation process involves the key action, to mold the clay, shaping it often on a potter's wheel, sometimes by hand, or using actual molds. Molding is fundamental.
And ceramics tell stories, don't they, historically?
Oh, absolutely. Ancient ceramics. They're archaeological treasures. The shapes, the glazes, the painted decorations, they give us incredible insights into past cultures. Daily life, trade, technology, beliefs. Much more than just pots.
And the artist doing this work, whether in clay or stone, is the sculptor.
Yes. The sculptor, the carver, the modeler, the chiseler.
And the key action, especially with stone like marble, is to carve.
Right. To carve, to shape by cutting away material. Chiseling, engraving. It requires not just artistry, but real physical effort and a deep understanding of the material. Think of Michelangelo carving David from a single block of marble.
Bringing life out of stone.
That's the idea, respecting the stone's integrity while transforming it. Intense physical technique applied to hard, resistant stuff.
Okay, let's move to 2D, painting. Let's contrast two classic media, canvas and watercolor.
Good pairing. Canvas is that stretched fabric, usually cotton or linen, that acts as the base, especially for oil painting.
Oil painting, the big one, historically, Renaissance masters and all that.
Absolutely. Oil paint allows for incredible richness and depth. A key technique is layering. It's not just slapping paint on. It involves things like glazing.
Glazing.
Applying thin, almost translucent layers of oil paint one over another. It builds up color slowly, creating luminosity and really deep, vibrant tones. That's how those old masters got that glow.
Right, I see. And watercolor is totally different.
Completely different discipline. Watercolor, or aquarelle, uses pigments suspended in a water-based solution. It's known for its transparency, its lightness, its speed sometimes.
Often used for landscapes, right? Misty effects.
Exactly. Capturing fleeting moments, light effects. Layering is crucial here too, but it's about building up delicate washes, thin applications of diluted color. You have to be careful though. Unlike oil, where you can layer thickly, too many watercolor layers can just turn muddy.
So it requires a different kind of control.
Very much so. Control of the water is almost as important as control of the pigment. It demands precision and planning.
Before any paint hits the canvas or paper, though, the artist needs their palette.
Ah, yes, the palette, the mixing board, the color tray. Seems simple, but it's central to the whole process.
It's where the color decisions happen.
It's where color theory happens in practice. Mixing primaries to get secondaries, testing shades. A painter's palette during a project can almost be a work of art in itself, showing their whole color scheme.
And that idea has gone digital now, too.
Oh, absolutely. Digital palettes in software like Photoshop or Procreate simulate the whole thing. You can mix, adjust, save colors instantly. Very efficient.
Less messy, too, I imagine.
Definitely less messy. But whether it's wood or pixels, the palette is where the chromatic choices are made.
Okay, let's think bigger now. Scale. When art leaves the frame and goes onto a building, that's a mural, right?
Yes, mural, wall art, or sometimes fresco, which is specifically painting on wet plaster.
Yeah.
Murals are powerful. They can transform public spaces, turn a dingy alley into an outdoor gallery.
Make art accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And historically, murals and frescoes were vital for storytelling. Think Renaissance churches telling Bible stories, or Roman villas depicting myths, often for people who couldn't read.
And today, we see a lot of community murals.
Yes, that collaborative aspect is really strong now. Community projects where people work together to create something meaningful for their neighborhood. It emphasizes the social power of art.
One last term in this section, linking the artist and the human subject, to pose.
Right. To pose, meaning to sit or stand still for an artist or photographer holding a particular posture.
It sounds passive, but it's not always, is it?
Not at all. It's often an act of collaboration. The artist directs the model, hold your head like this, lean forward slightly. Sculptors might ask for dynamic poses to capture muscle tension. Portrait painters might need someone to pose elegantly, maybe uncomfortably, for hours.
So the model is really part of the creative process.
The crucial part. They bridge that gap between the artist's idea and the final representation. An often overlooked collaborator, really.
Okay, this section feels like the real core for C1 learners, moving beyond just what it is to how we talk about its effect, its structure, its meaning. Let's start with visual tricks, creating illusions on a flat surface.
We have to begin with depth.
Depth, like making a flat painting look three-dimensional.
Exactly. Perspective, dimensionality, profundity. It's all about creating that illusion of space receding into the picture. Artists use various tricks with line, color, and especially light and shadow to achieve this. It draws you in.
And the main technique for that is to shade.
Yes, to shade, to tint, shadow, or grade. It's a careful application of darker tones to suggest volume and form. Think about how shading turns a simple circle into a sphere.
Makes it look solid.
Right. Renaissance artists mastered this with chiaroscuro, that dramatic contrast between light and dark. In drawing, you see techniques like cross-hatching,
Drawing lots of little lines.
intersecting parallel lines. The denser the lines, the darker the shadow. It builds up tone and creates that 3D effect very effectively, even without color. Digital tools now have sophisticated shading brushes too.
Okay, so depth and shading create the form. What about the surface quality? The finish?
The finish, that's the final layer. A coating, a varnish, a polish. And the choice of finish is really deliberate. It's both aesthetic and practical.
How so?
Aesthetically, a glossy finish on wood, say, might enhance the grain, make it reflective. A matte finish on a photo or painting might give a softer, more subtle feel, reduce glare.
And practically.
Protection. Varnish protects a painting from dirt and minor scratches. A good finish on an outdoor sculpture helps it resist weathering, UV damage. It preserves the work.
Makes sense. Let's switch to subject matter. A common one, but maybe deeper than it looks. Still life.
Still life. An arrangement of inanimate objects. Fruits, flowers, books, skulls, jugs. The classic subjects.
Often seems like practice for artists, right? Learning observation.
It definitely serves that purpose, honing skills and rendering texture, light, form without a moving model. But historically, still life, especially in, say, 17th century Dutch painting, went way beyond practice.
How do you mean?
Many were vanitas paintings, from the Latin for vanity. These still lifes were packed with symbolism: a guttering candle, a skull, wilting flowers, an hourglass. All reminders of the shortness of life, the inevitability of death, the futility of earthly pleasures.
Wow. So much more than just a bowl of food.
Much more. Deeply symbolic and moralizing, not just decorative arrangements.
Whether it's a still life or a landscape, a key goal is often harmony, right?
Yes, harmony. Achieving balance, unity, accord within the composition. It's about making sure all the elements, colors, lines, shapes, textures work together pleasingly. They feel like they belong together.
It sounds good, basically.
It looks and feels coherent, yes. Art critiques often focus heavily on whether a piece achieves this. Does the color palette create harmony? Is the composition balanced? Artists use principles like the rule of thirds or specific color relationships to help create that sense of visual harmony. It guides the eye smoothly.
Another technique, almost the opposite of complex harmony, is the silhouette.
Right. The silhouette, just the outline, the shape against a lighter background, usually dark on light.
Very simple, but powerful.
Extremely evocative because of its simplicity. It reduces the subject to its essential form. Great for capturing an elegant profile in portraiture or those dramatic effects like trees against a sunset.
Very graphic.
Very graphic. And you see it used all the time in design, too. Logos, fashion sketches. It's about instant recognition of form.
Okay, let's think about the purpose behind the art. If something is primarily made just to look nice, to adorn a space, we call it decorative.
Decorative, exactly. Ornamental, aesthetic, embellishing. The key distinction is that its main job is to be attractive, rather than, say, functional or deeply conceptual.
Like patterned wallpaper or fancy trim on furniture.
Perfect examples. Intricate patterns on a vase, elaborate plasterwork on a ceiling. The decorative arts often emphasize beauty, craftsmanship, ornamentation. Think of the Victorian era, lots of highly decorative objects and interiors.
And the contrast to that is art that carries a deeper meaning. Symbolic art.
Precisely. Symbolic, emblematic, representative, metaphorical. This is absolutely crucial for C1 analysis. Recognizing symbolism means digging deeper.
Going beyond the surface.
Yes. The dove is symbolic of peace. That's a common one. But it gets complex. A locked door in a painting might symbolize missed opportunity. Chains might symbolize oppression or, if broken, liberation.
So you have to interpret the clues.
You do. Contemporary art, especially installation art, is often heavily symbolic. It uses objects and arrangements to provoke thought about social issues, psychological states.
Yeah.
It demands interpretation from the viewer.
And how we interpret it depends on our own background experiences, our viewpoint.
Absolutely. Viewpoint, perspective, stance, angle. This term works on multiple levels. It's the physical angle you view an artwork from, sure, but more importantly, it's the intellectual or critical perspective you bring.
My viewpoint might be different from yours.
Exactly. And that's where interesting debates in art criticism come from different viewpoints clashing or illuminating each other.
Sure.
Also, the artist's own viewpoint is key. Are they challenging norms, offering a critique of society? That viewpoint often drives artistic innovation and the start of new movements. Understanding viewpoint lets you analyze why someone interprets art the way they do.
Okay, last section. Let's put all this into historical context by looking at some major art movements. These are like big shifts in ideas and styles, starting around the late 18th, early 19th century with Romanticism.
Right. Romanticism. This was a huge reaction against the Enlightenment's focus on pure reason and order. Romanticism championed emotion, feeling, intuition, individual.
Yeah, and nature, right. Big, wild nature.
Absolutely central.
Yeah.
Celebrating the sublime power of nature, its beauty, yes, but also its terrifying, awe-inspiring grandeur. Think dramatic landscapes, storms at sea.
Where human feeling in response to nature is paramount.
Precisely. Subjective experience becomes the source of truth, not cold logic. It was a massive shift away from the earlier neoclassicism, which valued historical accuracy and classical forms. Romanticism blew open the doors for emotion in painting, literature, music.
Okay. Then, mid-19th century, another big change. Impressionism.
Impressionism. If Romanticism was about inner feeling, Impressionism was about outer perception specifically, light and color.
Capturing a fleeting moment.
Exactly. Atmospheric painting. The key idea was to paint what the eye sees in a particular instant under specific light conditions. This often meant leaving the studio, painting outdoors on plein air.
Like Monet and his water lilies or haystacks.
The classic examples. They weren't trying to paint the ideal haystack. They were painting how that haystack looked at that moment with that light hitting it, often using rapid, broken brushstrokes to capture that immediacy.
It looks less finished than older painting styles.
Deliberately so. It was revolutionary. It shifted focus from line and form to light or color and how they interact. Impressionism is still fundamental for teaching color theory and how we perceive the world visually.
But around the same time, wasn't there another movement pushing for truth, but in a different way? Realism.
Yes, realism, defined by naturalism, verisimilitude aiming for lifelike, accurate representation. But the crucial difference from, say, neoclassicism was their subject matter.
What did they paint?
Everyday life, often the hard lives, the struggles of ordinary people, the working class. They rejected the heroic myth of Romanticism and the idealized scenes of academic art.
So depicting things as they really were, even if unpleasant.
Exactly. Serving as social commentary. Artists like Gustave Courbet painted peasants, stonebreakers, laborers, giving them a scale and seriousness previously reserved for historical or religious figures. It was quite radical.
Bringing the lowly into high art.
You could say that. And realism had a huge impact beyond painting influencing literature, photography, towards documenting reality, warts and all.
Okay, fast forward to the early 20th century. Things get even more radical with modernism.
Modernism. This is a huge umbrella term, really, covering lots of styles. But the core idea was a decisive break from the past, from classical forms, traditional perspective, realistic representation.
Throwing out the rule book.
Pretty much. It was avant-garde, driven by innovation, reflecting the huge changes happening in society, industrialization, new technologies, new psychological theories. Think abstraction, non-representational art.
Picasso. Cubism.
Picasso is a key figure, embodying that spirit of shattering old forms and inventing new ways of seeing. Modernism wasn't just painting, it transformed architecture to think function over ornament, clean lines, new materials, a complete rejection of historical styles.
And finally, tapping into those new psychological ideas, we get surrealism.
Surrealism emerged in the 1920s, heavily influenced by Freud and psychoanalysis. Dreamlike art focused on the subconscious mind.
Like Dali's melting clocks.
The absolute iconic image. Surrealism aimed to unlock the creativity of the unconscious by juxtaposing bizarre, unrelated things, putting ordinary objects in impossible scenarios.
Creating illogical, dreamlike scenes.
Exactly. To bypass rational thought and tap into deeper psychic realities, its influence was massive painting, sculpture, but also hugely important in film, literature, creating new ways to explore abstract ideas and challenge our sense of reality.
Wow, what an incredible journey through all that vocabulary and history. We've really gone from the market practicalities of the auction house right through to the deep feelings of Romanticism, the weirdness of surrealism. Hopefully this gives you, our listeners, a really solid lexicon to sculpt your English analysis skills at that C1 level.
Yeah, we've tried to provide the tools, the terms for materials, techniques, aesthetics, history that you need to move beyond just saying, I like it, into really informed, insightful analysis.
Which actually raises a good final thought, doesn't it?
It does. For you, the learner, think about the last artwork you encountered. Maybe a painting, a sculpture, even a building. Now, with this vocabulary, how would you critique it?
Go beyond just liking it.
Right. Will you analyze the finish? Discuss the use of bronze, or maybe dig into its deeper meaning? Is it primarily decorative, or does it have powerful symbolic elements? Does the whole composition achieve harmony? Using these words is the key to unlocking that deeper analysis.
Well, since this deep dive has hopefully sparked your inner art critic and boosted your linguistic mastery, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Until next time.